Linda.
Over there, do the registration.
Bobby, D-O-B-B-I-E.
And that
The detail on the face.
I would like to get a program and just like sidebar with you for a minute and just make some notes.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
I love this picture. Look at this one. Bullet.
Oh, yeah. Looks like, what was her name at the Academy Awards? Anne Hathaway?
Yes. That's a pretty one.
Yeah, Jim Gavick's one. I talk to him every now and then.
Do you? You can't take them till 8 o'clock, is that right? Or another time and come back?
This guy here lives in Buffalo, BC, and
That's my mother's, that's Max Pines, who's my grandfather.
oh, okay. Yeah, it makes me want to cry because it was just such a wonderful. I mean, didn't we? She stood up for the wedding. Didn't we have a wonderful time?
Oh, you were at the wedding?
Yeah, she was a bridesmaid, which is, you know, which is wonderful.
Inspired me to put on a program. I used to put on a program with photographers, and they were surprised.
Yeah, I'd love to see it.
But you know what? There's no schools that teach this stuff.
Right. Yeah. We had an amazing phone conversation, which Ettore story is so much more than just the bridal photos. And I want to invite Ettore up at this time. Ettore, do you want to come join me? Share the mic with Ettore and ask him to give you a little bit of background and how he came to have the brides with bounce, and I'll let him take over, and then I'm going to ask him a few questions as well. Thank you.
I have to put this down. Nice to see you all here. I'm frankly very surprised at the turnout, but I shouldn't be, I suppose. Brides with bounce. Why that name? Bounce refers to a method of lighting which was not original with me, but it was original in the way that I used it. When you make a photograph, especially in the days in the dark ages when we worked, nowadays it's much different. But you had to use light. Most photographs, there was a necessity to use lighting of some kind. And direct light can be very cruel and distort features. And so you look for ways to try to make people look at least as good as they look, and if possible, even better. And I attended a lecture one time for a photographer. He was a Hollywood photographer who specialized in doing head and shoulder photographs of stars. And he showed his method of lighting was just some flats around the subject. He aimed lights at those flats. And then he posed a model. No matter how she or he turned, the lighting was always good because it was soft. I devised a way, we designed our studio actually. We had a very large 20 by 30 size room, it's our camera room, with a 12-foot ceiling. And we devised a way of bouncing lights off of the side walls and the ceiling. And the light, of course, would just bounce around the room. And all of the photographs that you see that are light, the ones with the darker background, were made with direct light. But all of the ones that you see that have the light background, which we call high key. And those were all done that matter of lighting. So we used to put on programs for photographers around the country and up in Canada. And we called our talk Brides with Bounce, which was, I thought, quite intriguing. People just didn't know what that meant. And I noticed it's in your program. Maybe you're wondering what this is. Some of you have noticed and even asked about this that I'm wearing here. It's an award which is given, you earn it, and it's awarded by the Professional Photographers of America. And the way you can earn this is through exhibiting prints. They must be judged and displayed at either a state convention, but mainly the national convention. It's quite coveted. It's not easy to do, and the reason I decided to wear this is a last-minute decision, is because I wanted to introduce you to the young man, and I call him a young man in quotes, who now has our studio. The Ettore-Winter Studio is still in existence. Jim, would you stand up? This is Jim Gavis. Jim Gavis has also just earned his master's, so he deserves to be congratulated for that. So that's one of the reasons I wore this. But I wanted you to know, he is doing some of the most beautiful work. It's entirely different from what we used to do. Of course, the whole method, the whole approach to photography is so different now. They're using, what is that word?
Digital?
Digital.
First, I wanted to mention, when Ettore contacted me, we had already planned on doing the event. It was just serendipitous that he would call, and I cannot emphasize enough in the time I've been here, that's the part about the History Museum, that's the heart of it, is folks like Ettore, when they call and they've got these stories. And from Ettore's story, I want to introduce him to his brides, because your brides, several of your brides are here. One of them, Gail Michaels, I just met today. She was reading the Sunday paper today with her coffee, and lo and behold, there she was. She's like, you can imagine my shocking surprise when I saw that. And I had another Gail whose mother recently passed away, who was one of the brides, and she had emailed me and said, similar story, when the story appeared on Channel 2 on the webpage, she's the office weather girl, so she always checks the weather in the morning, and she's like, I pulled up the website, and there was my mother, and I started crying, and nobody knew why I was crying. So, Ettore, I thank you from the bottom of my heart for sharing these with us and allowing us the privilege to have this happen. And I'd like to welcome the brides to stand that are with us today. To talk a little bit about your background when you were in Japan during the occupation, and you took photos there as well, because I know you exhibited them here locally.
Yes, during the war, I was a combat photographer. We did motion pictures for the Army. The war, thankfully, came to an end, but we were sent in the Army of Occupation. And so we went there, and I spent 3 months in Japan. And they were very enjoyable months, they turned out to be, because when we got there, we really had not much to do. So I borrowed a still camera from one of the stillmen, and I started traveling the countryside, because we had a Jeep assigned to us. And we would spend all day traveling around, photographing the countryside and the people. And I came away with almost 200 photographs that I came home with, and I still have, and they're available if you're interested in seeing those. If you go to the internet, if you look under Ettore, E-T-T-O-R-E, injapan.com, you will see a collection of the photographs that I did in Japan. A lot of stuff that my son put on the internet. If you Google my name, my full name, it'll all come up, and you can watch whatever you're interested in. Now, I won't say any more about that. How we got these photographs, if you read, I don't know how many read the article that appeared in this morning's Sunday paper, quite a few. Well, these photographs were a result of pre-bridals, Tegler's, which was one of the shop, I think, on Delaware Avenue at the time. She saw a couple of the photographs that we had made of her brides, and she called us. She said, if you make extra prints, if you will make an extra print, we'll put it up in our shop. And we, of course, we did, because it meant quite a lot of good advertisement for us. So we started sending, she said, and any time you recognize any girl that comes to you that you know has bought her gown at our shop, send us a print, we'll put it up. Well, and of course, that was the beginning of the 50s, the early 50s. So we started sending her prints. And over the 60s and the 70s, until one day she called us. I say she, Phyllis Shane was the manager and the owner of the shop. She called and said, we're closing our shop. They're not selling it. She said, if you'd like your photographs back, come and pick them up. Well, Jim went with his truck. We had no idea how many prints we had there, because we'd been sending them one at a time over the years. And Jim had to make 2 trips because they were all framed. There were these prints that you see here on the walls. So now, never knowing what I was going to do, I never expected to see these prints again. At the time that we gave them to Tegler's, we kind of forgot about them. Now, we got all these prints, but no names on them. There were no names, no dates, and I didn't know who they were. And I was, I'm thinking, if I could only find some of these girls, I'd love to give them to them. But I didn't know how to do it. And over the years, I've been thinking about it. I've been mulling over this all these years. Finally, through Marianne, who was my niece, who Melissa mentioned before, we got together and I called Melissa, and that's how this came about.
I think you did a great job, and I think that Ettore will be around for the rest of the event, so if anyone has questions for him, you can find him. Lucky ones who gets to learn stories like Ettore's all the time as part of my everyday, and truly, I guess 94 is a new 64, Ettore. You're just incredible. We went there the one day that Connie and I went to go pick up the photos, and his wife's making lasagna with her daughter in the kitchen. We wanted to stay for lasagna. So, I mean, just a delightful family, and we're so happy that to have had this opportunity.
Oh, that's great.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
It was a pleasure meeting you.
Oh,
Thank you.
Nice. Pleasure to do this.
Great. Thanks.
I enjoyed it.
He took the best pictures, really. Very nice.
Good.
Thank you.
Okay. Very nice service.
I still
That's all right.
Okay.
That's all right.
thank you.
You were?
Yes.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
It was my pleasure.
It's
I'm
really,
so happy.
I'm so happy to
Yeah. I'm happy to be able to do this. Yeah, these were done in the studio.
That's the way he signed prints for years. He didn't cross the T's.
Bernie Sandler was the leader of the band. Do I have a favorite tune? You know that one? Sing it for me. Just sing. Will you hear it? Oh.
Great memories.
Oh.
Much appreciated. Really, really love it.
Happy to do it.
Yeah, well, I'm so glad you saved them all.
Yeah, oh, I couldn't throw them out.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Thank you
couldn't.
again.
Oh, you're
Take
very
a picture of both of us?
Look at that.
Oh, looky, yeah. I think it's wonderful.
I think it's wonderful. What's the name of that tune? Yeah, there's a...
It's wonderful.
It's wonderful.
It's marvelous.
Yeah, we were having a sing-along. Care for me. Now
It's
what?
It's awfully nice.
It's paradise.
Da, 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 da. Very good.
La da 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 dee da da.
Da, da. Yes, you're right.
I wish I knew the words.
I do too. It would be beautiful.
Yeah.